Good afternoon. Welcome to the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce's 111th annual meeting. Yay! We did it! I'm Cindy Fry. It's my privilege to serve this organization as president. For the next hour or so, we will celebrate the people, businesses, and projects that are moving our community forward. So whether you're among the 80 or so gathered here and all wearing masks, thank you, or the hundreds watching via live stream, we thank you for joining us. Although we don't have our sold-out crowd here in the Commons today, we're still unified in our desire to propel our community forward. Our word for the day is resilience. We will learn how to be more resilient from Charlotte Westerhouse Renfro. And we'll wrap it up with a short video that details the challenges of the year, but also the ways the community has responded with ingenuity and generosity. Our gold sponsor for this meeting is Centric Credit Union. Our silver sponsor is the African American Fund of Bartholomew County. The live stream portion of this event is powered by Cummins and sponsored by Columbus Regional Health. Please join me in thanking our sponsors. When 2020 began, we expected it to be a year when we would try to top our record-breaking 2019 efforts. 2019 was a year when almost 6,000 participants engaged in our programs, our signature events like this one, Third House Sessions, Speed Networking, Ignite, 49 Fridays, Meet Your Makers, etc. It was the year we kicked off our Velocities partnership with the Mill in Bloomington and Elevate Ventures by hiring full-time entrepreneur in residence, Cy Minion, to coach and develop startups so they might be venture capital ready. And while we hoped to build on those successes, we found ourselves, like so many of you, having to pivot to meet the changing needs of our customers. As early as March, we were offering Zoom workshops on federal stimulus programs and policy changes. We were letting the public know how they could still support some of our businesses that had to close their doors to customers, but were still offering curbside and delivery services. We were representing you on a number of COVID-related coalitions. We were helping businesses learn how to reopen safely after the shutdown. And we were finding creative ways to connect you and help you network in smaller groups, on Zoom, and sometimes outdoors. We couldn't have done any of this without you, our members, your continued investment in the work of our chamber. We've relied heavily on our sponsors as well. Many of our sponsors are in this room. Thank you so much for standing by us this year, even if the event you sponsored didn't materialize or it looked very different. Our board members, you stepped up this year to help us navigate some difficult decisions like how to stage this event. And in particular, I'd like to thank our executive committee and who have worked with us so collaboratively, putting in many extra hours this year to help us determine how to be most effective, while also modeling the appropriate responses to the pandemic. Carl Kissinger, last year's chair, handed over the chair role to Scott Redelman, and I'm so grateful to both of them for their guidance. We've been just very blessed with strong board leadership this year. The Chamber, now in its 100th year, has always been a collective of businesses who work together to create a more vibrant business environment and a more livable community. It's clear that this virus is going to be with us for a while. We have businesses and individuals who are struggling. As chamber members, it's really incumbent on all of us to do our part to help our neighbors. A rising tide lifts all boats. So please be thoughtful about how you can help. Perhaps this is through charitable giving. We can all be thoughtful about how we purchase goods and services. The Chamber has a very easy, searchable online business directory on its website. You can find that at columbusareachamber.com. Everyone in this room and everyone watching online has buying power, personally or through your organization. So when you make a decision about what you purchase, I encourage you to be very thoughtful about where your money can do the most good. Buy local when you can. Support your fellow chamber members who employ our neighbors, donate to silent auctions, buy tables at fundraisers, or put their names on the back of your child's baseball or softball uniform. Remember, buy local. You can make a difference. How are we doing? There it is. So now I'm going to turn your attention to the screen as we acknowledge two very special awards that have already been given by your chamber. First is the Maverick Challenge. I have to tell you, this is our high school business plan competition. It's been around for many years. This year, our total regional participation was 320 students across 6 counties. And one of our regional first place winners went on to place third at the statewide Innovate Within competition. Locally, the challenge is sponsored by Agresta Storms and O'Leary. The winning Bartholomew County team, pictured here, represents Columbus North High School. The team's company, Amica, was comprised of Brooke Bruin, Anna Del Genio, and Carla Perez. They won a cash award for their pitch to create an environmentally friendly and trendy collapsible water bottle with filters made from plastic collected off of U.S. coastlines. Congratulations to this winning trio. They did a great job. And this was a year, perhaps like more than any other, when we realized that our teachers are true heroes. So it's fitting that the Edna Folger Award for Teaching Excellence was presented to Lori Cash on August 5th, the day she began her 30th year of teaching. Cash is a first grade teacher at Columbus Signature Academy, Lincoln Elementary School. One parent described her as the whisperer. She intuitively identifies unique qualities within each student, she said. She helps to unlock their individual strengths and exceptional greatness so they confidently become the best versions of themselves. The honor is given by the Center for Teaching and Learning at IUPUC, the Community Education Coalition, and SIHO Insurance Services. Congratulations to Lori Cash for this well-deserved honor. So many excellent things to celebrate in our community. We're going to continue now with another recognition. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Lenup, Mayor of the City of Columbus, and today it's my pleasure to present the award for Community Initiative of the Year. This year's award is presented to a group that has stepped forward to take on the monumental task of ensuring that every child in our community is healthy, safe, educated, engaged, and supported. The Council for Youth Development, CYD, is a cross-sector coalition that identifies and coordinates and aligns community efforts to ensure the development of the whole child. Since 2005, the Council for Youth Development and its partner organizations have represented a cradle-to-career continuum, serving and advocating for youth, birth age to 18, and their families throughout Bartholomew County. 3 years ago, with financial support from Heritage Fund and FORCIA, the volunteer-led group was able to hire staff and accelerate their work. This coalition facilitates communication and coordination among parties who share an interest in the success of our youth. That means bringing folks to the table from our public and private school systems, early learning facilities, courts and child services, Columbus Regional Health, the Bartholomew County Library System, post-secondary institutions, industry, and more. Actually, there are more partners than I could possibly mention here today. Together, CYD and those partners integrate valuable resources that are grounded in evidence-based research to provide developmental assist, building strategies to meet our county's unique challenges. They are tackling some of the toughest issues facing youth in our community today, including substance abuse, the number of youth placed in detention, and the percent of youth who have made a plan about suicide. CYD believes that solving issues like these begins at birth and is only possible by wrapping our community's resources around families, elevating the training of individuals who work with our youth, and by directly engaging our young people in meaningful experiences to activate their voice and discover their purpose. Some of the organization's most far-reaching efforts to engage our community's youth and families include the annual Shine On campaign that to date has helped positive messages from the coalition's partners and the public reach more than 30,000 young people. Overwhelming response to a postcard campaign prompted the council to launch their annual Youth Empowerment Summit, a week-long series of free public opportunities that sparked community conversation and youth engagement. Beginning in 2017, this organization brought together a 7-member guiding team, and with the participation of more than 180 stakeholders, designed the first phase of a youth master plan. Considered a blueprint for our community's positive youth development, the plan continues to provide guidance for a growing coalition to improve the social, emotional well-being of every child, teen, and young adult in Bartholomew County. This year, the organization responded in March, in the earliest days of the COVID-19 pandemic, to become the outreach and communications channel for the Emergency Child Care Coalition. The CYD team worked hundreds of hours to create an online resource for parents, notably our healthcare workers and first responders, seeking answers and access to quality child care during a very uncertain time. This outstanding resource became the model for other communities as the pandemic continued to disrupt child care operations. In light of this extraordinary work and collaboration, I ask that Heather Carson please join me on stage, and I ask each of you here today to please join me in showing our gratitude as she accepts the Community Initiative of the Year Award for the Council for Youth Development. Heather.
Well, it's a challenge not to shake hands, for sure. Thank you so much for your thoughtful words, Mayor Lenup, and especially for the Chamber for this honor, for the Council for Youth Development for the Community Initiative Award. On behalf of the Coalition partners, past and present, I thank you for this recognition, and our community is fortunate to have a long history of local leaders committed to ensuring our young people thrive. Thanks to the continued substantial financial investment of the Heritage Fund and the leadership support of United Way, Community Education Coalition, and Foundation for Youth, our coalition has strengthened cross-sector partnerships, aligned efforts to improve social-emotional well-being for all youth, and most importantly, remained responsive to the needs of our local young people and their families. If you have donated to Heritage Fund, or the United Way, if you have partnered with local schools, organizations, or agencies serving and supporting our youth and families, then you have contributed to our progress. Thanks to all of you for prioritizing the well-being of our next generation of business, civic, and faith leaders. The Council for Youth Development is proud to continue our work alongside you as we empower our young people and strive to make Bartholomew County the most equitable community in the nation for raising and supporting our youth. Thank you so much. Yep.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Stephen Combs, Chancellor for Ivy Tech Community College, and I am honored to present the Community Service Award. This award is the Chamber's most prestigious recognition, has been presented at its annual meeting since the end of World War II. The award recognizes outstanding service and leadership in a broad range of community affairs. Leadership that has benefited the residents of our community, and service that has stimulated and inspired a disposition to public service, among others. Through this award, the Chamber expresses the gratitude of our community by publicly recognizing outstanding civic service and unselfish devotion to the community's welfare. This year's recipient of the Community Service Award is an outstanding addition to the role of past honorees and is someone who inspires and mentors me to be more community service-minded. This year's distinguished recipient is a man whose face, head, and facial hair is well known in our community, but whose countless contributions perhaps are not. This gentleman is a 1966 graduate of Columbus High School and a 1970 graduate of DePaul University. After graduating from college, he served in the United States Air Force and received the rank of first lieutenant. While he was at DePaul, his parents founded Brands, Inc., a family-owned and Columbus-based building supply company. A devastating fire in 2006 destroyed the company's main building, its contents, and service vehicles. But because of the Brand family's commitment to our community, in response to the fire, the company's employees, customers, and community gave that tremendous support right back. Of the fire, one community leader said it would have been easy for them to shut down Brands, but they rebuilt and retained the business and the jobs. In 2014, our recipient was president and CEO of the company when he and his brother decided it was time to devote efforts elsewhere and pass the company on to another local buyer. From 2006 until 2012, our recipient was elected to the Columbus City Council, where he served as president pro tempore during his last year in office. Throughout his life, he has dedicated himself to numerous boards of directors, frequently serving as president or chairman. His past board service includes the Indiana Builders Association, the Indiana Lumber and Builder Supply Association, the Tri-County Builders Association Chapter NAHB, the National Lumber and Building Materials Dealers Association, the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, where he has served as Director Emeritus. His current service includes, something I'm very proud of, Ivy Tech Community College's State Board of Trustees, as well as Ivy Tech Foundation's State Board of Trustees, where he serves on the Executive Committee and chairs the Audit Administrative Policies Committee. Barcon Vocational Builders, the Vocational Building Trades Program of Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation, the Heritage Fund, the Community Foundation of Bartholomew County, where he serves the Governance and Planning Committee, and the Community Education Coalition, as well as Envision Columbus. That is quite the resume. Our honoree is the recipient of the Sagamore of the Wabash, one of the state's highest honors bestowed by the governor and given to individuals who are distinguished by their humanity in living, loyalty in friendship, wisdom in counsel, and inspiration in leadership. In his family, this gentleman is the proud partner of 31 years to the lovely Jerry Hanley, who is with us today. He is the father to one daughter and grandfather of 6. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present this year's Community Service Award to my good friend, Mr. Jesse Brand.
I'm going to take this off to make a comment or two, and I was instructed to please be brief because you all don't want to be out there too long, so I'll do my best for that. I would like to not only echo the recognition of Jerry Hanley, but I would like to say thanks to her in front of all of you because I could not have accomplished a great many of the things that I've been able to do without her support, putting up at times with challenges that almost no one should be expected to be able to do, and I appreciate her very much. I'd also like to express my appreciation to the Chamber for this recognition. It's humbling. I'm old enough, probably close to the oldest in the room, that I've been to more of these meetings than I imagine any of you, and I have seen those who have preceded me in receiving this recognition. And I'm very proud. I'm not sure I belong, but I'm very proud to be a member of that group because that group has exemplified the community service principle that we've all come to know as the Columbus Way. For me, I want to say thanks also to my father, who instilled in me at a very early age that value. If it wasn't genetic, it was certainly imbued to me at birth that community service was not just something that we value, but something that we are obliged to do, and as a result, the community will be better. And this is a community that has benefited, not so much from mine, but the service of a great number of people who do exemplify that spirit that my predecessors in receiving this award, and also all those others who exemplify the Columbus Way. With that, I'll simply say thank you to everyone. And I also want to go back and the mention of my 6 grandchildren. That's part of how I get the energy every day to keep doing what I'm doing, because they won't let me slow down. Thank you very, very much.
Ordinarily, at this point in the program, we would shine a spotlight on a single business that has expanded, achieved a special recognition, maybe reached a major milestone. But this is no ordinary year. We'd like to acknowledge today an entire sector for the work they've done to stabilize our economy this year. The Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, is the name of the loan program for small businesses and nonprofits that was rolled out as part of a federal stimulus program in response to the pandemic. It was extremely popular because of the favorable terms and the promise of partial loan forgiveness. With very little advance notice or training, federally insured banks, credit unions, Farm Credit System, institutions, and SBA-approved lenders became the intermediaries for the program. Here in Bartholomew County, these essential businesses have served us extraordinarily well throughout this pandemic. When the PPP portal, say that a few times fast, opened up on April 3rd, these dedicated lenders went into action, serving their customers. This year, they went above and beyond the call of duty, working around the clock to make sure organizations received the much-needed help to keep them afloat. In the end, the SBA reports that nearly 1,000 Bartholomew County businesses received funds, and there are hundreds of chamber members on that list. And while the specific loan amounts are not revealed, by totaling the loan categories, we can safely surmise that area organizations collectively received PPP loans in the range of $150 million. So today, we would like to thank all of our lenders and the commercial loan teams who worked tirelessly to provide financial relief during a difficult and uncertain time this spring. Now, if you were directly a part of this effort, would you please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you. And speaking of hardworking, committed financial institutions,
good afternoon and welcome. I'm Brad Davis, Chief Credit Officer at Central Credit Union, the proud gold sponsor of today's event. I'm also a former member of the Chamber Board, having served as the board chair way back in 2011. It's my distinct pleasure today to introduce our keynote speaker. Charlotte Westerhouse Renfro is Assistant Clinical Professor in the Department of Management and Business Law at the Kelley School of Business, Indianapolis, where she teaches negotiation, team dynamics, leadership, and cultural intelligence. An IU professor with a zeal for teaching with a difference, her outstanding teaching acumen has been recognized with numerous prestigious awards over the years. She completed her Bachelor's of Science and Master's of Education degrees at Ohio University, and then earned her law degree at Indiana University. She has served in a number of leadership roles at various institutions, including the 5 years she spent at the NCAA as the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion during the Miles Brand tenure as President of the association. Charlotte has dedicated much of her career to speaking and providing meaningful guidance to businesses, not-for-profits, and educational institutions on how to create healthy, sustaining, inclusive cultures. In her spare time, Charlotte is an avid volunteer on many nonprofit boards, a passionate sports fan, and a regular contributing writer to professional and editorial periodicals. We are very much looking forward to her insights. Please welcome to the stage Charlotte Westerhouse Renfro.
Thank you. That was awesome. That was awesome. I'm here. Yes, I'm here. I mean, we should applaud. And I only have 20 minutes. I don't have a lot of time, and I know the only thing that's keeping you from this beautiful Friday is probably the end of my comments. But sometimes I think you have to take time. And the way I was raised from parents who were raised me in Cleveland, Ohio, but had roots in the South, New Orleans, you always said thank you. And I want to say a big thank you to Cindy Fry. Cindy contacted me a year ago to do this. And we worked hard to make it happen. And we'll talk about resilience, and we'll talk about COVID-19. And she said, okay, we'll do it in May. Okay, we'll do it, ? And now we are here. You all have an outstanding leader. In some ways, I think she should get up here and actually do the comments for resilience. So I want to thank Cindy, all of the sponsors that I've met, many of you who have actually done a great job in employing graduates from higher education institutions such as Indiana University and the Kelley School of Business. I want to thank the mayor who I met. Go Hoosiers. I know, I'm in another part of the country, or the state. But you all, have you given her any applause yet for everything she's done to pull this together? I think you should now. Let's talk about bouncing back and resilience. And you know in your lifetime, when something dramatic happens, you remember not only the day, but the things that led up to that day. March 2020, I can remember this month so well. Basically, on the 6th, I was having lunch with one of my closest sorority sisters, downtown with no mask. On March the 12th, I had the honor of not only talking to one of my last undergraduate classes and basically saying, have a great spring break. Maybe it'll be 2 weeks, but I'll see you soon. Stay safe. I also had a chance to talk to a group of law students about this very subject. And one of those students, a graduating law student at the McKinney School of Law, asked me, Professor Westerhouse Renfro, are we going to have a graduation ceremony? And then it hit me. Fear, uncertainty. What was going to happen after the quest, and I know what it's like to go to law school. Will we be able to celebrate? And within 2 weeks, we were locked down. March 2020. Now, we all have seen this illustration, the dreaded COVID-19. I don't even know what this thing looks like this, but if it does, it's probably even more evil than this, right? This little bugger came up, and because of it, this term, the new normal, came about. Businesses had to close, and some of them had long-standing history of success in our community, in our country. They were our neighbors, not just businesses. We all know what we're doing now. I'm looking at you. Look at this venue. I was expecting all these tables. I thought it was 400 people, and now we are masked and the social distance. Illness. I've been told that your county has been very, very fortunate. But across the world, in our state, in my city, in my family, the illness and the death that this disease has brought will forever change the way we look at pandemics, medicine, and our health. Many of us as community leaders are expected to fly into this scene like Superman or Superwoman with all of the answers that our community needs. However, this is what you've been taught, to keep you going. The attitude, right? Don't you teach this to your children? If you can see it, you can be it, and as leaders, this is what you are trying to portray, day in and day out. Look at me. I can do it, you can do it. Or as we say in the baseball, I have some grandsons that play traveling baseball, and sometimes this neck of the woods, rub some dirt on it, get in there, play the game. This is what we used to teach, and still in some ways teach in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, colleges, and the School of Business. If you have the right mindset, and you all have the intelligence and capabilities, but your mindset is the key in the common paradigm of what is success. But I want to share with you some groundbreaking research that's come about in the last decade that actually illustrates how your mindset and something called grit with a dose of resilience can actually propel you and others who follow you to success. What is grit? I mean, grit doesn't really sound like a really, really attractive thing. But I can tell you, first of all, what grit isn't. How's that? This isn't grit I'm talking about. And if you know what this grit is, you and I are family. We don't even have to talk about it, right? This is not just grits. This is what kind of grits? Cheesy grits with sausage. Yum, any time of day. Well, that's not grit, but I can't wait to get back today, but perhaps over some grits we can chat. And this is not grit either. And I'm talking to this way, I do a lot of work on gender and generational differences, diversity. Sometimes grit is seen as being abrasive. Men, not so much for men. Men are gritty, but women, gritty women, now you think about it. For those of you all who are inclined to actually perhaps be romantically involved with a female, are you going to introduce her to your friends as, yeah, you know what, she is wonderful and she's so gritty? But that's not grit that I'm going to talk about. The grit that I'm going to talk about has been researched, and it comes down to these key words. Grit is power. And it comes from two things, passion and perseverance. You already know this. You're in this room because you have demonstrated this. But how do you demonstrate this today in the midst of this environment, this pandemic, and this economic uncertainty? Well, I'm going to go back to the research. And I always like to show pictures of researchers. You all think we look like, got thick glasses, kind of fuddy-duddy. No, Angela's very dynamic. And she's a professor, Professor Duckworth, at the University of Pennsylvania. Really quickly, her history. She came from a very well-educated family. But she decided her heart was into teaching, and teaching children in what was actually, back in the day I grew up, called the ghetto, the inner city, the East Side, socioeconomically deprived, my neighborhood. And what she decided to do was to get her teaching license and teach those children how to be successful like her. But what she found, and this is why she went back for her PhD, that there was a subset of children that did not have traditional indicators of success. Broken homes, hunger, moved around a lot in their lifetime, perhaps in the school year. Parents incarcerated. No positive role models that she could tell of. Yet these children were going on to higher education, to Yale, to Princeton, to the University of Pennsylvania, despite these indicators that said they shouldn't. Why? So she came out with a book I highly recommend, Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance. And do you know what she said the number one trait they had? The number one trait they had that is measurable, is this. More than education, more than experience, more than training, a person's level of resilience will determine who succeeds and who fails. As much as I promote higher education, and as much as we typically determine whether someone should have a job based on the amount of experience they have, more than the training that we actually promote so much in the workplace, a person's level of resilience she was able to demonstrate will always, or I say probability is higher than not, actually determine who succeeds and fails. What is resilience? I'm going to use this illustration because it gets me so excited every time I see it. Resilient people are ready for the setback. They're ready for it. They know it's coming. They don't run from it. Resilient people are ready for setbacks. Now, nobody wakes up in the morning saying, wow, I can't wait to go to work or school and get a setback, but they know it's coming. Think about some of the most resilient companies in our state. I had a chance, and we're working with students on a company called Endress Hauser in Greenwood. And because of the way they invest with equity investment and family business, and because the owners or the founders of this company came from, I think, Germany and also Belgium, and they experienced in their day the Great Depression and other atrocities their parents experienced during World War II, they invest in their company, and they have not had one furlough. They were ready for a setback, and they're flourishing. Resilient people are ready, and what happens when they get the setback, they're actually been with it, and they transform it, and they learn from it, and they bounce back. The capacity to be robust under conditions of enormous stress and change. And it's very important to understand the difference between bending and absorbing. If you absorb and don't bounce back, you will suffer. You will suffer. Most of us emotionally will be drained, physically and mentally depressed. If you stiffen and say, just hit me, you'll fall. But resilience is a skill, and I'll show you some of the skill sets and techniques that actually help you transcend. And it's so exciting to see this. Don't most of you want to go to see a movie or a football game where someone is behind and comes back? Or do you like going to games where they're just, the winner of the game is winning by 100 points? Well, it all depends on what side of your team you're on, right? But I love comebacks, and so do you. Resilient people can come back. Now, here are the 3 traits I'm going to go into that were actually researched. And when I say research, I think research is very important, and what I love about business is we research you, people. We study you. And so these are the traits of resilience. And these are things that you can actually measure in yourself and folks to determine if they have it or not. A staunch acceptance of reality. Put that in the context of COVID-19. A staunch, actually acceptance, and what do they do with that reality? Second, a deep belief, often buttressed by a strongly held values. Values are your deep-seated beliefs that life is good and meaningful. And how do you incorporate that in your businesses, in your community? And then finally, an uncanny ability to improvise. Now, you can bounce back from hardship, but in order to be truly resilient, you have high levels of all 3 of these. All 3. Let's go with the first one. Anybody know this person's story? Rick Viscolia? He was in the South Tower on 9/11, security officer for Morgan Stanley. He had been there since the 1990s. He had witnessed the first attack on the towers in 1993. From 1993 till 2001, he trained his employees on what would happen if there was an attack like 9/11. The wisdom from the New York Port Authority was stay put. So at 8:53 or so, when the North Tower was hit, he was in the South Tower. The speakers were blaring to all the employees, 1,000 Morgan Stanley employees on the 44th floor, to stay put. This is a picture of him on that day. What he did was to actually train his people and was resilient, so when it hit, they trusted him. They trusted him. and they made the journey down from the 44th floor. He is credited with saving 2,257 people's lives from being resilient and calm. When his wife called him, she began to cry. He said this, "I might not make it out, but I love what I'm doing." You have to understand that. He had a real sense of the reality, but resilient people prepare for the reality. So how are we preparing for the new reality? How are we preparing for the new reality? Are we saying it'll never happen? It happened in 1993, it'll never happen again, but he said no. And by the way, he did a lot of studying. He went to a lot of workshops. He went underground and actually studied terrorism. With one megaphone, 2,257 people were saved. He knew it was a bad situation, but he was resilient and calm. And no, he did not make it out. The last that it was seen of him, all the employees were gone, all the Morgan Stanley people got out, and he made one less effort to go upstairs to see to his 44th floor to make sure everyone was out. Courageous, yes, but smart. He was prepared. So resilient people see the reality, prepare for the reality, and also prepare for a future where this reality actually may happen. No one wants to think about it long term or happen again. Resilient people make meaning out of terrible times. Some of you perhaps have gone through terrible times. Did you learn from it? Do you inspire with it? Do you conscientiously do whatever it takes to come through? The children that Dr. Duckworth studied were not surrounded by success, but they pieced together aspects around them, enabling teachers, perhaps even a role model who perhaps a politician or sports or whatever, but they made meaning out of terrible times. What is the meaning right now in your organization? What kind of meaning are you conveying as leaders? By the way, I see the glass as half full. You're here, aren't you? Aren't you? You are supportive of this chamber, aren't you? You weren't going to let COVID-19 stop you from being involved in this community, are you? You're making meaning out of this community, out of terrible times. Half full. Half full. And more. Now, I gave you all this Pollyanna stuff, right? How do you do it? I know that we got some companies around here with a lot of engineers. You all thinking, so what's the formula, right? Okay, here we go. Do it this way. What are your core values? And this is what the research shows too. Meaning comes from core values. What are your deep-seated beliefs for your company? What is core to your organization and will never change? You've heard of companies and organizations that won't furlough. They'll go into their own personal pockets to pay their employees. The core values of what you do day in and day out. These are the things that can help you make meaning in a time where you need resilience. And these core values can't be made on the fly, research shows. And they can't be made unless you actually, of course, walk the walk of your core values. So, what is core to you, personally and professionally, that will never, ever change? It could also be, for me, I have a code of ethics as an attorney. It could be based on your religious beliefs. It could be based on your strategy. But in tough times, these core values, resilient people, that's what keeps people together. And that's why people follow leaders who don't stray from their core values. Yes, your strategy might change on how you get things done, and your mission on how you do things in tough times may change. But core values like collaboration, customer focus, excellence, respect, safety, gratitude, That keeps resilient people resilient. The final leg on this three-legged stool is ingenuity, an uncanny ability to improvise. It's called bricolage, the ability to improvise a solution to a problem without the proper or obvious material or tools. Now, a lot of people, when you think of this, they think, ingenuity is like this individual here who has all the tools helping someone build something. But you know what? No, this is when you don't have the tools. This is when you don't have the tools. Ingenuity. How do you actually have creativity under pressure? I think back to times when I was growing up, and I think a lot of times I hear about stories from my parents that grew up from the Depression, and the things they could do with a loaf of bread, a head of cabbage, a chicken, and then they would have what? 8 people to feed? Casserole time, right? They could do so much with very little. This is a time where a lot of people in our community don't have much. This is a time for ingenuity. Creativity under pressure. Now, how do you build your resilience? So I said the why, now it's the how. I'm going to give you some techniques. I had about 9 or 10 of these that have actually been researched, but I'm going to give you what I think are the top 3. And if we have time, I might give you the 4th. It's not on a slide. We'll see. Don't try to do it all at once. Makes sense, right? But under pressure, what do we try to do? We try to grasp all of it. Resilient people chuck it out. They see the issues, they divide, they conquer one step at a time. They're deliberate, they're pragmatic, they divide and they conquer. And I will add the 4th step, I can't help it. After they conquer, do you know what they do? They reward themselves and they reward their employees. And you know what? They calendar it. Do you have on your calendar right now, on your phone, what you're going to do to reward yourself based on an accomplishment you're trying to get? How many of you all have it on your phone right now? Did you schedule your reward? There you go, brother. I tell you what, that's resilience. I encourage you that if you have tasks in your company, in your community, and once they are actually accomplished, make sure you reward immediately. And you schedule it, and they know it's coming. It builds resilience. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be just ice cream. For me, it's getting my nails done. Every 3 weeks on Wednesday, that's what I get for going through what I'm going through now, from teaching on Zoom and teaching with masks. As soon as they reopened, I was there. Now, make sure it's healthy rewards now. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about the 3-martini lunch on a Friday. I'm talking about something that's healthy for you and your company. I'm just thinking about that. It sounds kind of good right now, but moving right along. Another thing is this. It sounds really corny. I'm giving you the research. Use a mantra. You know what a mantra is? What's a mantra? And I'm in class now. Anybody know what a mantra is? Yell it out. Something positive, you say over and over again to keep you motivated. Resilient people use this when they get the hit. Mine is a setback, is a setup for a comeback. Does it work? Absolutely. Absolutely. How many of you all have ever played for a team in a sporting event? Played for a team, okay? Have you ever been behind a few points? No, just a few. I know the way I look at him, he never was behind. He always wins. But have your team ever been behind a couple points? I coached AAU basketball. I'm a huge basketball fan. Go figure, Hoosiers, right? And I've seen many times when I coach, I see my grandchildren involved in sports. They might be behind just maybe run, and for them, they're playing 7 innings. And if the coach sees they're behind 1 run, and they're down to that hitter who hasn't hit in 3 games, do you think the coach goes up to that young boy or girl and say something like this? Bases are loaded, you got 2 strikes, you haven't hit in 2 games. I don't know what we're going to do. I wish you all the luck. Don't screw it up. And if you do, you're probably going to get benched. Is that the mantra we have when you're down? Why do we encourage people with words? Because psychologically, it affects your limbic and the part of your brain that deals with emotion. It frees the blood flow, so the frontal part of your brain can be creative. So I'm going to do something I usually do in class. I know give me a half a time. I'm going to try to go row by row, if I can, or maybe I just need 3 people. Don't shout it out because it's COVID-19, but I want 3 people, even if you say it with your mask on, can you share a mantra? On this side of the room, anybody got a mantra? Can you share it? Teamwork makes the dream work. Very good. You're off the hook. These 2 rows. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. I go for daring adventure. What about you? Let's do this. All right, these 2 rows. Yes, sir. That ain't gonna spoil my day. Boy, that sounds like somebody from Indiana. You ain't spoiling my day. It's so funny. It doesn't matter how many. I tell people this all the time. I don't care how many degrees I have, how many places in the world I travel. When you can tell home when somebody says something like that. You ain't gonna stop my parade. I hear you, sir. Those are mantras. Use them. Here's the thing. Use them. I thought this was Pollyanna until I saw the research. It does affect your brainwaves. It does affect your ability to be spontaneous and ingenuity and be creative and improvise. It's just that simple. And if you have them, use them with your team. And do what I just did right now. When I go to work with companies and I'm doing coachings, I have people meet in teams and go around the room and create a mantra for the day. And then the goal is to make sure you share it with 5 strangers at your workplace. And we measure the results as far as people's sense of comeback. And they tell me when I meet with them next time, people were actually looking like they were more passionate and acting more creative at work. Whoops. Oh, I got one more. Sorry. This is my last one. Visualize success. My parents never got a high school diploma. So they put their visualization into me. Right? I was the first in my family to get a high school degree, a college degree, a master's degree, a law degree. And they told me what they visualized was this. There would be nights when they would, before they went to bed, they would say this. Them names was Charlene and Herbert. Herbert, my mom would say, I can see Charlotte walking across the stage. Can you see her? Yes, dear. Can you see her walking up the steps? That's my baby. Can you see her walking across the stage? Yes, I can. And her hand is extended, and the diploma, she has it. And babe, can you hear us screaming and howling like we don't know what to do but act a fool? He says, I'm going to be there with you. And then can you see her? She's going to have a tassel on and a gown, and she's going to walk down those steps, and our baby's going to be a high school, college, lawyer. They shared this with me recently. They're 86 years old now. That got them up every day to put their pennies together, to get me to the library, to get me music lessons, when no girl in the family had ever done anything. 4 girls. And I'll add this, 4 black girls. No one in the family had ever seen anything like this. They were told they were wasting their time and their money. They're going to get married anyway. They visualized our success. Can you express the success for your company and your community in the same way? When you talk about your dream, can they see it? Can they feel it? Can they touch it? Can they grasp it? Greedy people visualize crossing the finish line, winning before the race is started. Research shows that will help people become more resilient. Now, I'm coming to a close because this is what it's all about. Resilience actually pays back. It's not Pollyanna. It's not rah-rah. That's probably why I think Cindy said it's going to be good for you to come here. And this would be before COVID-19. Such a visionary leader she is. Resilient people actually feel less stressed, less depressed, and have less anxiety. And don't tell me you haven't had any of those the last few days. Wouldn't it be good to get rid of some of that? With resilience, they're not as tired. Time flies and they're still working because they have passion for what they do. Resilient people sometimes would work for free if they believed that their leader had the same values and resilience that they had. They're more capable, they perform better, and sometimes it's not about the job. They really attain their own personal goals better with resilience. So the bottom line is this. You can do it. That is the bottom line with resilience research. Now, it takes time, sometimes it takes practice. But you can, and I will say this, in the time, in our place, in our history, in our community, the state, and the country, you will, and you must. Any questions? Such a good class. Y'all get A-star. Well, let me do this before I end. I told you I was raised by Southern parents, and just like I thank Cindy, I always want to make sure I thank you. Thank you for supporting this event. Thank you for getting over the disappointment of perhaps not seeing all the tables that are full. Thank you for supporting this community and keeping it going. I've only met a few of you, but thank you for sharing your stories of success and what you're doing here in the community. You shared some things about your family with me. Thank you for volunteering here, here, and here. And thank you for what I know is going to be the outcome of all your efforts. And it's going to be a bigger and brighter Columbus, a bigger and brighter chamber, a bigger and brighter state, and a bigger and brighter future for all of us. You guys have a wonderful Friday.
Charlotte, thank you.
You're
That was
welcome.
just fantastic. My takeaway is a setback is a setup for a comeback. Yes, those are good words to leave us on. We're gonna take you out with a short. We're gonna take you out with a short video that I think will help you make meaning of the experience we've gone through this year. And what we're learning from it. So we're going to talk about ingenuity and empathy and generosity, just the very things that you spoke of, Charlotte. So thank you. And we didn't discuss this beforehand. It's just a perfect entree to the video we're about to see. There might be just a slight gap in the timing. Stay with us.
There were two times, I guess, that it sort of came home. One was when Mary Fredon walked into my office and said, we need to start talking about this. And the second one was when I was talking to the folks at the hospital and they began to talk about field hospitals, which was setting up a tent out in the parking lot. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is a real deal.
We have emergency preparedness plans from natural disasters to pandemics. So we had work streams around making sure we had adequate personal protective equipment. What were we doing around the workforce? How were we communicating? We had to set up all new processes for visitor restrictions, how we're screening patients, employees, to getting telehealth visits set up, to our fever and cough clinics set up. How do we isolate and keep patients safe, keep the workforce safe, and continue operations?
Pretty early on, we recognized this was going to have a profound impact on our community, particularly lower wage workers. And so we jumped right up and said, you know what, we're going to raise as much money as we can for this in order to help out families within our community. And we broadcast that pretty widely through all of our different communication channels. And the response was was just really fantastic. I was blown away by how generous our community has been through our fundraising efforts to help with the COVID-19 relief. We have had hundreds and hundreds of donors step up. Some of those donations have been $10. Some of those donations have been $10,000. To date, we've raised about $610,000.
The first challenge that we had was an effort to try to help the people in Wuhan. I mean, they're a sister city to the city of Columbus. We felt a little bit of affinity or a kinship with them because of Cummins' presence there. And so our initial effort was to try to gather some PPE to send there and help them. It was shortly afterwards that then we realized that, we need some PPE. The Columbus Chinese Association made arrangements for us to get masks from Wuhan. So we had a return favor, if you will, that came to us, from people that we had helped previously.
We knew we needed to get a community audience. If we knew we were going to slow the spread of this virus and keep its impact minimal, we had to get the entire community engaged. It was amazing how, we all learned from one another, but I really saw our role as trying to be that source of truth for the community and help others through this and help to guide the best response we could to this emerging situation. And, we have a very solid relationship and constructive, healthy relationship with the school corporation, with the city, with the county, with other businesses. We're not strangers to one another. And when it comes to a crisis and like this pandemic, the foundation of those relationships is where you really see the value.
We had a gentleman who rode his bike 29,000 vertical feet, which is called Everesting, and he raised several $1,000s to help United Way, to help struggling families. And he was on his bike for the better part of 24 hours straight. But we have another example of a photographer in the community who wanted to help. And so she did a special appeal using her talents as a photographer in order to raise money for the United Way.
We had a group of engineers here in town who sort of took it upon themselves to design respirators for some of our healthcare workers, who needed to have filtered air constantly supplied to them so that they could go about their duties. And these guys and gals just sort of took it upon themselves to go design something that would work or satisfy that need. And it was really kind of fun to go watch them demonstrate this. You've seen that picture in Apollo 13 where the guy throws the pieces out on the table and says, you got to put all this together and make something happen. And it was a little bit like that. And so to think that we've got that kind of talent in Columbus, Indiana, and we've got that kind of talent that's willing to volunteer and make the effort and help out their fellow person, it's really heartening.
I wish I had a crystal ball to say when the end of this will be here, but I don't. But what we do know, the pandemic's here. It's still spreading. The virus hasn't gone away. It's not going away. It hasn't changed. Maybe the only thing that can change is really our behaviors, our actions and reactions. Just continuing to do what we've been doing. Mask up, social distance or physical distance when you can, good hand hygiene. The way we do things in this community can really be uplifting, and we're just going to have to continue to make sure we do this. And it's about, we're all in this together. If we work together on it, we will get through this. We just have to stay diligent doing that.
We've seen a lot of really difficult things unfold. We've seen a lot of people that are really in challenging situations and just struggling, and that's hard to see. But at the same time, we have also seen so many silver linings within the COVID-19 pandemic that we have been facing. We have seen just unprecedented generosity from our community, from the business community, from individuals, from people just stepping up to do what they can to support our community. And we don't know, what the future of COVID-19 holds. We can't control that. But what we can control, what we can pursue as a community is just positivity and empathy and coming together as a community to do everything that we can to help those who are struggling.
We've had challenges as a country and as a state and as a city. We've had challenges over and over again down through the years. We've had weather challenges. We had a flood in 2008. We've had economic challenges, be it high interest rates or high unemployment, and we've always figured out a way, to get through this. And there's a certain part of human nature that is always working, to try to, improve our own condition to make this thing work. And we've got plenty of that good human condition here in Columbus, Indiana. So we'll be fine. It's going to take a little while. It's going to take a lot of work, but I'm confident that our future is bright, and we'll just get through this and we'll do it together.
It's all there, right? Passion, purpose, ingenuity, positivity, resilience. So we're going to conclude. I have a couple of closing announcements. I would like for our winners to remain in the front so we can get some photos and document this. I want to say thank you to the Chamber team who worked so hard to make this happen and really thought about your safety very carefully. We're so grateful to all of our sponsors, to the Cummins TV crew who are making the live stream possible. We're thankful to our sponsors, and to all of you for joining us for this one-of-a-kind, hopefully, celebration. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.